Hello everyone, welcome back. Today, no gaming. I wanted to start a little bit earlier. I'm slowly trying to adjust to probably stream a little earlier every day. And I do want to start by basically outlining what I do here. I develop live. I don't have this pre-planned. And on my YouTube channel, I actually take what I've pre-recorded and I slightly editing it so it can be followed and replayed. So if you're looking for something specific, you don't have to go through the entire live session, through the entire development session. So I just want to be sure that you understand that there might be occasions like today where I'm gonna re-record something. I recorded this earlier in me streaming, but I noticed that it had a lot of echo, and so when I was trying to modify it, when I was trying to go through the actual stream and clean it up and go through it, I had a very bad echo. I'm still fairly new to this whole development on stream. A good friend of mine recommended I do this, so I'm giving it a shot. But from this, like I said, I'm taking and creating I'm creating videos on my YouTube channel that can easily be followed from these recordings, from these live sessions. So with that being said, today I'm going to start with something that I did before. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. Once we have the API created and we have an SWR hook created, we have to go and create couple of things. The first thing is we have to create an error fallback component. So what the error, I've spoken to this before, the error fallback component, what it does is that it will basically be a way for your user to know what happened with your app. There's countless times that I've seen where there is a scenario where a user can go to see your application, all of a sudden it just goes blank, nothing to be seen, they don't know what happened, and then you get a ticket opened for an issue with your application. So that's what I'm going to cover today, is how to do that, as well as how to establish a store. In your application, there's two types of state. What I mean by state is called variables, things that you store stuff into. So for instance, let's say you're at the grocery store, you're shopping, you wouldn't want to have to continuously go back and forth between the register and the grocery aisles, right? To go get a product and then come back, pay for it, go get a product, come back and pay for it. So imagine that the grocery aisles is your SharePoint server, and you are bringing in information and you need to store it somewhere. That's where your variables come into play. And in React, when you're talking about React, which is what I'm utilizing here to create this web part, React creates a state. So that's a way to store things. So you retrieve things from SharePoint and you store them somewhere. But not all of your data comes from SharePoint. There's times that you have variables, going back to the shopping cart. You have areas of the shopping cart that only apply to your application locally, not remotely. Remotely being where the SharePoint stuff is at, somewhere on the cloud. Obviously it's not in the cloud, but it's server somewhere in a data center, depending on where you are and where your SharePoint site is coming from. There's a data center there that's rendering this information. So that's the remote state. The local state is what your browser keeps a track of. Okay, so whenever you have a scenario where you have to store data, you want to keep two types of state: your remote state and your local state. And so for your local state, you want to utilize something like Zustand. That allows you to have a global state within that application. And for your remote state, well, we already have SWR componentry to do that. So whenever you pull the data back from SharePoint, so if we look at our SWR component here inside of our hooks, when we look at the items, if I use FAQ items, this data is my state, my data, my cache, my cart, where all of my stuff is stored. Again, going back to the grocery store analogy. But that handles your remote state. That's your state that comes from SharePoint, the data that's coming from SharePoint. We don't have is the ability to store data locally for the web part, basically what your browser uses, okay? And why that is important is because one of the things that the error fallback control does is it keeps track of your errors. So whatever error you may be encountering, you can store that inside of your state, inside of your store rather, so that way locally you can always know what's going on, and whenever the user gets an error, that error fallback component will render that error for them. All right, so without continuing to speak too much about it, here in the source folder, we're going to create a folder within that. We're going to call that folder store. Actually, let's not put it inside of the source folder. Let's put it inside of our FAQ web part. So we're going to create this folder called store. So technically you would right click on FAQ web part and you would select create a folder. All right, so new folder, and you would call that store. And inside of store, you're going to create a new file called webpartstore.ts. Okay, this is a TypeScript file that's going to be basically generating your store. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're for now going to store only the error state, the global state, to keep track of any errors that happen within your application. So we're going to import, and the import is going to be Zustand. And just an important note about Zustand, make sure that you're installing Zustand version 4. Do not install version 5. So we look at our package lock, you can see that it's using Zustand 4. 5 does not work with SharePoint Framework. I tried to install it I did this. I tried to install it, and unfortunately, 5 gives us errors. It doesn't install. But version 4 is working just fine. So use version 4 so that because of compatibility. You can try version 5 if you're working on this somewhere sometime in the future, and the dependencies are there to support Zustan version 5. But for now, I would recommend using version 4. Um, and again, you're more than welcome to try 5 depending on when you see this. So we're going to import create from Zustan, and then we're going to create a type for this store. So the web part store is going to have a state. Actually, let's call it web part state. And so this state is going to be an object. In an object, inside of the object, we're going to have an error, which is going to be a type string, and we're going to have a hide error message, and this is a Boolean. Okay, and I like to separate my state into properties and actions. In programming, just like we have nouns and verbs, you know, when we're talking about the English language, or really any language, I'm sure, you have actions, things that you do, like he threw a ball, or he ran, right? Ran is the verb. He would be the noun, person, place, or thing, right? So here, the same scenario, the state is our properties. Like we have an error, we have a true or false. Those are just words, like a somewhat of a implicitly saying kind of like a noun. And then we have our actions. So we're going to have a type that we're going to call our web part actions. Okay. And here we're going to have set error. And that's going to receive an error, which is going to be a string. And that is just basically a setter. Void means there's nothing going to be returned. Nothing's coming back. Whenever you see something being defined after the arrow function, you can say, okay, if it's going to return true or if it's going to return, you specify what is going to be returned for the purposes of TypeScript and for error handling, right? Because you want to be able to catch a lot of your errors while you're coding. So right now we're setting a function that sets the error, receives an error as a string, and doesn't return anything. All it does is just set the error for you. You're not expecting it to return something to you. The next one is going to be set, not set, but toggle error message. And this is going to, this is going to basically just toggle it, like you know, when you flip a switch, up and down, turn up for on, toggle down for off. So toggle error message is going to basically do that. And again, it doesn't return anything, it just changes something for you. So it's important to understand the concepts as we go through our coding exercises, okay? Because a little bit on that is, don't memorize code. That's the worst thing you can do. Memorization of code is going to come with time, with you working on solutions over and over again. Don't strive to memorize this. Strive to understand the concepts. What's happening here? So what's happening here is we're using Zustan to create a store, and we're assigning types. Types meaning like how these things are going to look, right? For instance, if I was making cookies, it is generally established cookies are round. They're circular in shape. So we're establishing what they originally look like. For that, we have properties and we have actions, okay? So we're establishing how this web part store is going to function. Why? Because whenever we're using this store, it's going to be helpful for us to know how to write things to avoid any potential errors that may occur as we're creating it. So we're going to create the web part store, and it's going to have the create method that is going to have the two types of the two types established for it. So we're going to use the web part state and the web part actions. Yeah, web part actions. Okay, and that's going to have a setter, and we're going to have an object to create those um to basically have those functions or those properties be set, or those functions to run that are going to set our properties for us. So error is just going to be an empty string for now because we don't necessarily have an error. And then hide error message is going to be true for now because we want to have that error be hidden. A lot of people make the mistake. I'm not saying I shouldn't say a lot of people, but I've seen where individuals make a mistake where they'll set something to true and then they're like, well, it flashes on the screen. I don't understand why it flashes on the screen, it's showing and then it goes away. You have to remember there's race conditions, there's things that happen as your things are loading on the web page. And if this does not load immediately, then your message is going to show, or whatever you want it to initially be hidden is going to show. So it's always good to set to set hidden things to be hidden initially and only shown if they're needed to be shown. Again, that's subjective. There might be scenarios where the opposite might be necessary. So just play it by ear on how those things should be set. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set error, which is our action. It's going to receive an error, which is a string. And that is going to use set, and it's going to set our error. I'm sorry, not like that. It's going to be our error. Okay. Gonna set the error. And then after that, we're going to have our toggle error message. So toggle error message. And for this one, it's going to set the state of hide error message to the opposite of what the message currently is. Again, if we're walking towards the light switch, if it's on, we're going to turn it off. If it's off, we're going to turn it on. That's what a toggle does, right? So here we're basically saying, okay, we have an error message that we want to show when the error message occurs, and then we want to hide it initially, and then if there is an error message, we want to show that error boundary, we're going to set that to true. Okay, and then obviously we're going to have to display what that error is, and so the error string becomes our property, what it displays. Okay, all right, so now that we have that set, the last thing that we have to do is, going back to the topic of what I was talking about before, there's scenarios where you want to expose this outside of its generic usage. So usually this usage is only for like in a way of using it as a hook. But there's scenarios, especially when you're setting errors, where you might have race conditions and you want to be able to set the error and toggle the error prior to the implementation of the hook. At least that's how I viewed it. Why? Because there's been scenarios where I have an error occurring at the very start of my web part, and because the web part store hasn't been instantiated, I can't leverage it. Or for instance, if I want to use my web part store inside of an API, I can't do that because it's not a React component. But we can expose these properties. That way, whenever we want to utilize them, we can do so outside of its generic usage, which is Zestan. And to do that, we're going to export this to both the property and the action. We're going to expose them outside of our state from Zestan. So we're going to, our set error and our toggle error message is going to be utilizing the get state method from the web part store. I'm sorry, let me delete that. All right. And so what this does in essence is we're using the get state of the store to retrieve the setter for the error message and the toggling of the error message, because that's going to enable us to use this outside of your traditional standards for utilizing Zestan. What I say is just my way of explaining it. Don't, a lot of people, oh, you didn't explain it right. I try my best to explain it how it best makes sense to me and how I best think that I would make sense to you. So what I say and how I say it, I just know that my intentions are to teach you the way I understand it. But if you have a correction, by all means, put it in the comments. If you think that something was done incorrectly, please let me know, and we'll be looking at it and see how I can adjust. Again, I'm just trying to show you how I best understand this. Okay? All right. So now we have our web part store. The next thing that we're going to build is our error fallback. So inside of our FAQ web part, we're going to go to new folder. I've already created this prior to this. We're going to create this called the utility component. And inside of the utility components, we're going to add a component called error fallback at SPFx. Okay. So the error fallback is going to be what displays our error message. Okay. So we're going to create our React functional component. And the React functional component is going to have a type. No, we're not going to use types in this scenario. It's going to utilize, let's see, it's going to utilize, some components from within our Fabric UI. Okay. So the Fabric UI, we're going to import. So let's go ahead and import, and we're going to import from @Fluent UI React, and we're going to import. Sorry, we're going to import the button. I'm sorry, button. And yeah, from here it's going to be action button. And we're going to import the message bar and message bar type from Fluent UI React message bar. Okay, because we're going to need those two, and we're going to need our just freshly created web part store. So we're going to import use web part store from the Zustan store that we just created, and we're going to import use FAQ items from actually we're not going to do that, disregard that. At first I thought, and this was something that was the reason I was going to add this, is because I was in one of the scenarios where I was working on this, and I'll cut this part out in the recording, but I was going to add this because I was going to have a way for the users to be able to refresh the data, basically a way for them to be able to click a button and be able to see have the system refetch the data. I am no longer going to do that. Okay. All right. So we're going to use our web part store. And so in our error fallback, we're going to bring in the error and toggle error message. And we're going to use the web part store to retrieve that. Okay. All right. And then in our return statement, here's where we add a React fragment. And inside of a React fragment, we're going to have a message bar. And the message bar type is going to be message bar type error. And on dismiss, we're going to use toggle error message to dismiss it, to basically hide the error message. Because remember, this is going to be rendered based on what is inside of our based on what's inside of our Zustan store. So dismiss button area label is just going to say close. Basically what this is that whenever the user hovers over the close button, it's just going to basically say close, meaning this is what this button does. that's going to have like a little X on the side. And that button, what it's going to do is going to close that error message. Okay. All right. So now that we have that, we're going to look and see if we have an error. And if we have an error, then we're going to show that error. Okay. If we do not, we're going to just type out a message that something went wrong. It's not, we don't exactly know what happened, but please contact support or system administrator. Okay, that's what it's going to show if there is that error. And I'm going to remove this action button. Again, that action button, the point of that action button was going to be so that if we want to retrieve data from the SharePoint, if we want to force it to retrieve the data, then we would have used that button. Okay, so that's in essence what we did today. Is we added a web part store and the error fallback component. They are intertwined or work together so that they can help you and your web part store so that you can establish a local state that works globally, and then your SWR state becomes your remote data, what comes from the SharePoint site. So it's important to differentiate the two things. Okay. All right. Perfect. So as I mentioned to you, these are live recordings, but I did have this issue before where I had a really bad echo before, and so I had to re-record this part so that I can put it in one of my YouTube videos. I appreciate your patience for that. But now that we've done that, we can move on to where we were actually at before on our last stream. All right, so let's do that. Bear with me a moment. I just need to remember where we were the last time that we talked about this. Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So let's go ahead and continue with where we were at. So the last time that we were discussing things, we had just created our hooks inside of our web part to retrieve the topics, because our goal was to get our web part to have this kind of tabs at the top and then be able to see the different views on the FAQ web part. So, and I actually think we can even do more things. Like, I think it would be really neat to have something like this instead of the accordion view. But let's go ahead and continue to work on that. Okay. So we have our FAQ topics, and so the FAQ topics, what we're gonna do is, I think we can use, there is a pivot. Yep, I was just talking about this. So the pivot allows us to basically have these tabs at the top, which is really, really in tune with how these look. If you really think about it, I mean, you have these really nice tabbed options. And so inside of each pivot item, we have an option for account, an icon, a large link size. Not sure what that does, but let's look. I'm curious if there's a way that we could have it to where instead of embedding let me see if I have a I was wondering if I had used this before, where we would be rendering components as we click on each pivot item. So, because pivot, let's look at the properties for pivot. On link click. So it looks like it does something whenever we click on it. All right, so let's just play it by ear and see what we get. All right, so let's use pivot. So for our web part, let's go to terminal and let's start our web part just so that we see where we're at first. I know we were on default layout, and inside default layout, it's just gonna say no FAQ items found. And then it's gonna have an option to add FAQ. But I think that we wanted to. Do we have an error? Let's see. Let's maximize this. And I mean, for the purposes of you being able to see, this is zoomed in a lot. So just bear with me. We're gonna try to get this web part started, so that we can see what it looks like on the page. And then once we have it rendering on the page, then we can determine what we're gonna do. I think what we should do is we should have it to where if the user has more than one topic, then we'll use pivot to display them on nice tabs at the top. If the user has just one topic, then it would basically store the data in that one topic only, and it won't necessarily show the tabs at the top. So that's the way we're gonna basically make it work. If we have several topics, we show tabs. If we only have one topic, we don't show any tabs. I think that's gonna be the optimal way to work with this. And it gives the user options, right? Like we give them options to be able to show the web part. So right now, if we refresh the web part, you notice there's no items. And if we click on edit, we can select if it's a single FAQ or if it's multiple topic FAQ, but we determined that that's not going to be the way to do things. I think the way to do things is right now we have FAQ type selector. The FAQ type selector is not going to be the way we want to go. We want to be able to show topics that the user can either select from. So let's see what we can do for that. If we go, what would be a good option for it? Let's just see where we find topic selector UI. Okay. Let's go to images. We're just trying to get ideas. Oh, I kind of like this. So this would be a cool thing to have. You can have the option to select, instead of select color, we can have an option to select topics. That would be one idea that we could utilize. No. What would be another good one to use? I'm really thinking that this is gonna be our best bet, to have something like this that shows topics, and then the users can define and tell us, okay, we want to use this one topic or several topic. So we're gonna have to use the checkboxes. So here in the Fluent UI controls, we should have checkbox. So show code. So we're gonna have a checkbox for each of our topics. If there are no topics, then we're going to add a button that says add a topic. So let's go back to FAQ type selector and go to definition. We're gonna get rid of this actually. Let's get rid of this from here, and we can get rid of this. It was good. It was a good thought that we could probably do it that way, but I don't think that that's the way to do it. And we can just delete this. We don't need this anymore. Delete. Move to recyclement. Okay. So now let's get to working on our component. So our component for so inside of components, we're going to create a new, let's create a new folder. We call it topic selector. And we're going to create a new file, topic selector.tsx. And our component is going to import all as React from React. And this is going to be a function component, React functional component. And inside here, we're going to basically utilize the topics. So I'm thinking that we should do the same thing like we did for the cards. So if you recall the cards that show the actual questions, it receives the items. So same thing here. We can say topic, type topic selector props is going to be an object that's going to receive, let me minimize this so that we can see better. It's going to receive, let's look at that props. It's going to receive FAQ topic type. So it's going to receive topics, and it's FAQ topic type, FAQ topic. All right. And let's see how this checkbox thing works. So we have an onChange function for whenever a checkbox gets selected. Our checkboxes are essentially going to be controls that set up the state. So I think that we should probably use, since we want to appropriate and have SWR handle a remote state, we should have our web part store handle our local state. Okay, so for that, what we would do is we can have the FAQ topic is going to be utilizing the ID, and it's going to be utilizing the string of the topic. All right. So the FAQ topics, now that I think about it, we actually have to go and update the hook, the use FAQ topics. We actually have to make sure that that returns a drop down kind of scenario, because if you look at, well, do we need to do that? I'm thinking of drop down. It's not a drop down. We have to use yeah, it's not a drop down. I'm thinking of drop down. So in drop down, you can have a key that is text and a string that is text, but for checkboxes, that's not going to apply. All right, so in our web part store, inside of our web part store, let's have no, we won't need that either. We have to have a way to store the topics locally inside of our web part, but we don't want to. I guess this is actually coming in really handy because we're really starting to get complex here. I think that what we're going to end up doing is we're going to have to use a property on the side pane to store or to store all of the IDs of topics that we want to use inside of our web part. So actually, this is really great that we're doing this. So in order for us to do that, is we're going to create because we can't just store, it'll refresh. If we refresh the page, it's going to clear our state. So we have to go and create a site property. I'll show you what I'm talking about here shortly. So let's go in here and look up let's see, let's go to FAQ web part TSX, FAQ web part Let's look at this one. So what we need to do is we need to create a property pane field to store our data. So property pane fields, let's go look up property pane fields. See which one would be the best one for us. So we have description by default. We have the types that are supported, which is button, checkbox, choice group, drop down, horizontal rule, label, link, slider, text box, multi-line, toggle, and custom. What I'm thinking is we should use if we use a text box that might be limited, because you remember text boxes generally by definition only have a limit of 255, and a multi-line text box is like a note. I think let's try text box. I mean, if I highly doubt that a user is gonna have that many topics, and we should probably even consider limiting it. Like how many are on that picture? 1, 2, 3. Maybe they should have 6 tops, 6 options. All right, so we're gonna create a property pane field that's called text. So we're gonna create a new property pane text field. So in here in our array, let's add another property pane text field, and this one's going to be called topics, or let's just call it topics array. Now you may be thinking like, why are you doing it that way? I am not going to show the user this. This is just actually, we're going to see it while we're in development, but after, when we're not in development anymore, we're going to hide this field, and I'll show you how to do that. But for the purposes of development, we're going to show the field, because what we're going to do with this field is, instead of having to create a list to store what topics the web part's going to show, what page it's on, it becomes really messy, right? But what the property pane allows us to do is it allows us to store locally on the side, on the page, cache the data for this particular web part. And so our topics are going to be stored there. Basically, think of the topics as a way for when the page loads, for us to be able to see and basically set up and know what topics that web part's going to display. And it'll all make sense. I promise it'll all make sense, you know, as we progress. So you can actually put the label like this, but I'm a creature of habit, and so I will put I will basically try to follow the standards that they set up for us. So you have description field label. We're gonna have instead of the label being here, that we're gonna set up let's call it topics field label, which is going to be a string. Okay, and then here we'll put strings dot topic field label. All right, and now we have to set up this string. Let's look at the site. No, but they didn't mean to click that. Okay, so we look here on the strings. We'll have a property pane description, which is coming from, it's coming from the FAQ web part. Is property pane description. Where is this coming from? Property pane description. Property pane description. Description field label. And we're using topics field label. right? Topics field label, topics, comma, separated array of topics. All right, so we have our topics field label, and oh, strings. There we go. That's what the arrow is coming from. All right, so we have our topics field label, and then property pane description. What is that? When we look at our web part, oh, it's gonna give me an error. It's topic selector placeholder. That's perfect. And this is going to use topic selector props. Get rid of that error. Save that. Save this. Save this. Save this. All right, so when we go to our web part and we click on the edit properties, we have our topics. You see that it has this here, and then we have a description field, which is, we're gonna rename this to actually say web part title. Let's go web part title. So when we go and edit the properties, we have the web part title. And we're gonna actually use this in our web part. We're gonna put a placeholder somewhere, because if you look at the web part, it says have any questions, right? We might want to incorporate that. We can put FAQ by default, and then if the user sets up a title, then it'll show right below it that title. I think that would be a neat little feature to have. So we can refactor this to be the title. Group name, let's change that to FAQ web part settings. Perfect, man. This thing's reading my mind. All right, so here we have our FAQ web part settings, where it says description. Use this pane to configure the web part. Perfect. Now let's preview this. Use this pane to configure the web part. FAQ web part settings. This is the web part title, and this is going to be our topics. Again, this is not going to be visible to the user. The only thing that we want to show to the user is just the title, so they can modify that. But the topics, we're going to basically populate that with the changes in the checkboxes. Okay, so we're going to add checkboxes for the topics, and then when the user clicks on those checkboxes, it's going to put our array of topics in on the side. That way, every time this page loads, this is stored on here. And then if the user wants to use another web part on another page within the same site, they can do that and set up a different set of topics there. So this is going to make our web part reusable. We can reuse it over and over and over again. All right. So we have our label. We have our topic array. And now our scenario that we're going to have to do is we're going to have a setter in here. So let's look at how the field description is being set up. So description, this.properties.description. Let's look up back at our documentation. Handle field changes. Yep. Return true. In reactive mode, every change in the field control of the property pane triggers a change event. The reactive behavior automatically updates the web part property with the new values. And this is exactly what we want. We want it to be reactive. Why? Because the user should be able to click on the topic and be able to immediately start seeing the questions come up. The little tabs. Custom property pane controls. So whenever a property changes, so we should have something that says get property pane, data version dispose, theme, get environmental message on init. Let's go ahead and inside of our web part props, let's go ahead and add topics array, and it's gonna be, so this is gonna store it as an array of string. I think that we're gonna have to change array of numbers in string format to number. So with JavaScript, you can use the map method to convert it to a number, and we can do that. Because if we looked at our property pane, we didn't have like we have a choice group, and we have we don't have like where we can have an array of stuff, or we have a choice group. Let's look. I wonder what property pane choice group looks like. Property pane choice group. Yeah, it's basically checkboxes. We could technically do that too. We can make it have, instead of having the topics inside of the question is do we want to have, the question becomes, if I click on this edit button, do I want the user to be creating topics here? And I really don't think that's a good idea. We just want to cache the topics here. So, I mean, it's a minor impact to have to do a number array. So since it's such a minor, and we're going to limit this to 5. So it's not like we're going to iterate through a whole bunch of numbers, right? We're going to limit the number of topics to 6, actually, just like this image shows us. We're going to limit it to 6. So it's hardly any kind of performance impact to have to do this. So let's just stick to the way we have it. Let's not overthink the way we're going. So the topics array is going to be a string. And we're going to pass this as a property. So topics array, we're going to add it to our web part props. So web part props, and here we're going to add topics array, which is going to be a string. So that should get rid of that error. And so inside of our we actually have to create a function that sets that setting. Okay, because I'm not entirely sure that you could, well, you could, I guess, do it that way. Let's try it. So if we go to the topic selector, we're basically gonna use topics. All right, so use FAQ topics. We're gonna use, oh no, we decided we're not gonna do that. So here we're gonna basically, the topic implementation is gonna be done here. So if we have topics, so topics are always gonna be there, but we gotta make sure that we have, so topics, let's get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. So topics, if topics are here and topics dot length is greater than 0, we're going to render our topics here. If they're not, we're going to render, oh boy, I hate, let me turn off Copilot, is driving me nuts. News for 5 minutes, buddy. All right, so this is a ternary. This is what this is basically saying is, if we have topics, oh, and we have to make sure that we're passing topics in the object here. All right, that's why we were getting errors there. So if we have topics, we're gonna render, we're gonna have a React fragment here, and we're gonna have a React fragment. Now that I think about it, we don't have to have a React fragment, and we don't have to have a ternary. So if the length is greater than 0, then we can show this. Basically what we're saying is, if we have topics and the length of the topics is greater than 0, then we're going to show the checkboxes. Okay, so we're going to use in Fluent UI, we're going to have these checkboxes. And so we're going to say, and import checkbox and stack. But me being as picky as I am, I always like to import only what I need. And obviously stack's not gonna like that. Import at Fluent UI React library, and we're gonna use stack. Let's type in stack right here. And again, we're just basically having fun. We're developing, just thinking, building things as we go. Okay, so this can change, so we'll just play it by ear. So for the, if we have topics, then we're gonna do topics.map. And inside of our, we're gonna have outside, we're gonna have a let's change this to a stack instead of a, and so inside we would have a stack dot item. All right, and inside of our stack item, we would have a checkbox. Checkbox. We don't need this. So we would have a checkbox, and the label is going to be, oh, we have to make sure that we pass a topic. And this is going to be an FAQ topic. And the label is going to be topic dot title. Okay, so this is going to show the topic dot title, and then below that we're going to have a stack dot item. And it's gonna be an action button. Let's bring in a import at Fluent UI React library button, and then our button is gonna be action button. Let's bring in an action button, and so the action button is going to have an icon. What do we have as options here? I don't know it off the top of my head, so let's go here and let's go to button. We have I know that we have an action button. These are, yeah, action button. There we go. Again, this is exactly how things work, folks. You don't have to remember. So we have to have icon name, and the icon name, we have icon props, and then we have icon name. And the icon name, if it's a topic, again, don't memorize code. Do not memorize code. Just look it up. It's not a lot to just go and check it out. So let's look at topic. Nothing there. Maybe books. Maybe topic could be something like I don't know. Let's look and see what options we have. Page header edit. Product list. I mean, this kind of looks like a box of topics. Maybe we can use that. Again, this is just, we're going, you know, let's not take ourselves too seriously. Let's just build stuff. That's all we have to do. And so we have our action button now, that is going to show up on our web part. Do we have any errors? Let's look. No errors found. Okay, so the reason we're not seeing the topic selector is because we don't have it in here. Let's add it here. Right above action button, let's add the topic selector, and this is gonna need, remember, this is going to need topics, and topics are gonna come from our use topic hook. This is what really awesome about doing development this way. It really makes things so much more fun to work with than to have to you know, do this a different way. Trust me, I'm a huge fan of this type of development, having a lot of structure. But you can already see right here you have the little topic. But let's go to the topic selector, and one of the things that we forgot to add was text. Okay, so here inside of our text prop, we're gonna add a topic. All right, so we refresh it, voila, there is our add a topic. Okay, I'm telling you, this is really gonna be a lot of fun. And obviously, if we add a topic, then we should take that topic and add it immediately to our array. Okay, so this is going to be kind of like a twofold thing. When the user clicks on that topic, we're going to basically allow them to see it as a tab at the top. Okay, then each topic is going to have its own add button to add its own question under that topic. Okay, all right. So we have our add a topic, add a FAQ. We're not going to use the add FAQ right now. We're going to leave it there for now, but that's actually going to be embedded as a child to the topic, right? So we're going to have topics first. Once we have topics, we will show that. If we don't have topics, then we'll have to add a topic. So when the user clicks on add a topic, there's nothing happening right now. When the user clicks on add FAQ item, there's one there. So on the add FAQ item, we have a title and answer. Let's go ahead and create a form just like we did before. And this is so repetitive, and that's how you learn to code. Don't memorize code. We're just gonna do this so many times, you're just gonna learn it. It's gonna take, before you know it, you're gonna be a pro at this. All right, so let's go our forms, and inside here we're gonna create a new folder. And we're gonna call this a topic form. All right, and inside of our topic form, we're gonna create the same things that we have for our FAQ form. We're gonna create a new file. We're gonna call it topic form.tsx, and we're going to create a new file called topic form validation.ts. And basically we're going to create the same things that we did for the FAQ form, and for the FAQ form we're going to basically create the same files for the validation. So let's go ahead and look at validation, and right next to that we're going to put the topic form validation. Okay, and we're going to import from yup. Going to import invert. Oops, sorry. We're going to invert type. We're going to we need number. Well, we need number for the ID because they're going to have an ID. So we're going to have number. We're going to definitely import object because the whole schema is an object, and we're definitely going to import string, just like we did for the other ones. And then we're going to import the FAQ topic from the app props. We're not going to do the invert type yet because we don't have a schema developed yet. So we're going to create our FAQ topic validation schema, and it's going to be an object. Let's snooze our buddy here. Sorry, I'm just so used to not it can come in handy to have, I'm not gonna lie, but sometimes it can be very annoying. You can just turn it back on if you need it. All right, so we're gonna have an object, and it's gonna be an ID that is required, and then we're gonna have a title, which is actually gonna be our topic, and this is also required. And actually this shouldn't even say title, this should say question is required, and this one should say topic is required. Why? Because even though we're using the title field, which all SharePoint lists have, we do need to make sure that we're having the ability to tell the user, hey, you don't want to tell them title because they're gonna be like, what are you talking about title? You're gonna want to show the user or tell the user what exactly they're missing. All right, so we have our ID and our title, and I think that's all we really need for our topics. We don't need anything else. Then we're gonna have our default values: export const FAQ topic default values, and this is gonna be a type of FAQ topic, and it's gonna be an object that's just gonna have our default data. Okay. And it's going to have a title, which is just going to be an empty string. And now we can use inferred type. Export type, FAQ topic type, and make sure you put infer so that way you know which one you're talking about. And this is going to infer type of, and we're going to use FAQ topic validation schema. Okay, am I missing something? Let me check here. Oh wait, I messed up here. I don't have to. This isn't a generic, so we just put type of FAQ. All right. What are we missing here? Export const. We should definitely have our old data. Let's just put this, copy it over, paste it in here. Oops. We should put a comma here. And then we can copy this in here. If you recall, the old data e tag is going to come in handy because you want to get in the habit of putting this in your object, because if somebody makes an edit concurrently with another user, the OData e tag is a good way of being able to determine what iteration you're on, so that way you don't, if somebody had made an edit before this user, Let's clean this up. We don't need that to be that number. Um, if the user modifies it while somebody else is modifying it, the ETI is going to say, wait a minute, this was modified before. Can't do that again. All right. All right. So now that our validation is done, the next thing that we do is our topic form. We can put this to the side. We can close our topic selector. Yep, we gotta, let me leave our topic selector open. And let's look at our form, so the FAQ form. So we're gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna create our component, import all as React from React, and this is going to be a functional component of React. So we're gonna do React.functional component, and we're gonna have our form. Similar to how we have here, we're gonna go ahead and import all these from React hook form and copy this. All right, because we're gonna use that. We're gonna use our yup resolver. That's also gonna be needed. Obviously, we're gonna need a text field because we're gonna need to put the text field into our. We're gonna need to put the data into our text field. Why do we have an error here? I didn't see this before. Cannot find the web part store. Did I change the structure? So this should be. It shouldn't have this error. I think this might just be a TypeScript engine that's kind of showing me an error that's not really there. Let's ignore it for now. We'll come back to that. All right, so we have our text field. What else do we need? Yeah, we could use stack. Let's bring stack. We can bring primary button. All right, let's bring all this in, and then we're gonna import our validation information. So import topic validation, and from that we're going to import the default values. So we have our default values, we should have our schema, and our inferred type. Let's bring that in, the inferred topic. All right, let me format the document. All right, so we have our validation. We have our validation brought in. All right. And let's go ahead and get started adding our stuff. We're gonna bring in some hooks, obviously, because we're gonna have to use add items from the topics hook. But we'll do that here shortly. So inside of our I'm trying to think. We should set up something that even we can already set up a way to edit this from the get-go. So let's just do that. So it's gonna have a type, topic form props. And to our topic forms, we're gonna put current topic item. This is gonna be FAQ invert topic type, or it could be undefined if it doesn't exist. And we're gonna have a dialog, but this dialog is a little bit different. Let's toggle hide dialog. Let's call this toggle topic hide dialog. This is just gonna be a void. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't return anything, rather. It does something but doesn't return anything. And then we have to have our topics. So topics, and it's gonna be an array of topics. All right, and then we're gonna have our mutate FAQ topics. That's gonna use the keyed mutator from SWR, and it's gonna mutate the array of FAQ topics. So we're using the same methodology. Let's go ahead and bring in our hooks since we're already here. We're going to import from our API. We're going to import our add items. So from our hooks, the topics, we're going to use add items. And in here, use add items. All right. And we're going to import use edit items from the same hooks section. So API, hooks, topics, and we're going to use edit item. Use edit items. Okay. I think we got what we need. So we have our, we have what we need for our functional component. And then we're going to use topic form props. And our form props is going to be an object being passed in here. Current topic item, toggle hide dialog. And we're going to have our topics and our mutate topics being imported. Okay. All right. So now let's construct our actual form. So we're going to have controller or control handle submit. Let's go ahead and just copy this right here. Okay, and this is going to use the FAQ topic infer type. And this is going to have a resolver, which is going to be our FAQ form validation for the topics. And it's going to either use the current topic in our state locally, or it's going to use our default values that are stored in our validation file. All right, so now that we have that built out, we're gonna use our add item and our edit item hook. But let's not do that right now. Let's concentrate on building our form. Let's go ahead and return. And inside of a return, we're gonna have a form. And the form is going to have an on submit function, but we don't have that submit button built yet. So let's use stack tokens, and that's going to use children gap 15. And our stack, we're going to use a stack. Stack item. And inside of our stack item, I'm going to have a controller from the hook form. And the controller name is going to equal title. And we're going to use control from React hook form. We're going to render as a text field. And this is, I'm going to let the GitHub Copilot help me out here. Okay, so we have our controller. All right. This is very simple. It's a very simple form. It's only going to have the one field. And then we're going to have let's create another stack item below here. And inside of our stack item, we're going to have a primary button. And it's going to follow the same. For now, we're just gonna, for our on click, we're just gonna have an empty function. All right, so because we haven't built our function yet, so we're just putting a placeholder there. And so now we can do our submit. So for our submit, we're gonna use either adding or we're gonna edit, right? Pretty straightforward. Add FAQ item mutation, and then add FAQ item option, and we're gonna that's gonna be coming from use add items. The same thing for edit. We're gonna bring in our hooks. All right. And this is where, again, we just follow patterns, guys, guys, gals, we just follow patterns. All right. So we're going to have an on-submit function, and this is going to use the submit handler from hook form, and it's going to use the FAQ invert topic type. And this is going to be an asynchronous function that's going to receive data. Data being what's inside of our form, right? So let me go ahead and bring this over because I don't think we need this anymore. All right, so we have data, async data. All right, and then we're gonna have a try catch. And if we have an error, we're gonna set error from the web part store. And we can actually, since we're inside of a function, we don't have to do it this way. We use it as the state. We can do equals use web part store, and then we have our set error, and we have our toggle error message. All right, so now we have our set error, and then we have our toggle error message true. All right, and inside of our try is where we're gonna do a little bit of trickery. Obviously, if we're using our default values, our ID is 0, so that means we're in a new form. If our ID is not 0, that means we're editing, so we do our edit functionality there. And you can kind of see that here because we're just basically going to check if the data.id is 0, then we're adding. If our data.id is not 0, that's an existing item, we're editing. Okay. And if you'll notice, I think here, I thought I put somewhere where you could see a difference, but I guess I didn't. We'll add that later. Anyway, but if data.id is equal to 0, then what we're gonna do, we're gonna mutate the FAQ topics, and we're gonna use add FAQ the item mutation. We're gonna pass the data and all the topics, and to the options, we're gonna pass the data and all the topics. All right. If not, then we're going to edit our item. We're gonna pass again data and all the topics, data and all the topics. If you want, I am recording this on YouTube, and like I said, I'm gonna be placing this on YouTube. That'll make a lot more sense. But just real quick, so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's go to use add items from the topics, and just a quick refresher. What this does is, whenever you add topic mutation, it's expecting the new topic. That's what's going to be sent to SharePoint. Then it's going to expect the array of existing topics, right? And so the array of existing topics is going to be the current number of arrays. So when you add one, it's just going to append it. The benefit there is that it does it immediately. Again, we're going for that instant gratification to the user. They're able to see it immediately as soon as it happens. So that's what these hooks are doing. They're doing what SWR does, which is called optimistic UI rendering. Basically what that means is I'm going to show it to you immediately while the actual data is getting pushed to SharePoint. And then once the user data makes it to SharePoint, I'll update it. The user won't even know that it got updated. They're just going to see it happen immediately. Okay, quick refresher on that. I don't want to delve too deep into that. Toggle error message does not get a Boolean. I don't know why GitHub Copilot did that. And so here we can just say our error. All right. And our on submit is going to be in our form. On submit, we're going to use handle submit on submit. And then on our on click, I don't think we have to have an on click on this scenario. If I'm not mistaken, we don't. And we just have type disabled. And then for our handle submit, we have submit and then on error. That's what I'm missing. We need an on error function. So here, on error, and we're going to use a submit error handler from FAQ, and we're going to toggle the error message. So here on submit on error. Okay, and now we have on our error. What am I missing here? Oh, topic mutation. Add FAQ topic options. Thing. This is what. This is what. This is what letting Copilot do things does to you. Let's fix this. Copilot. All right, so now we have our errors fixed. So this is our form, everybody. Now we have our form that we can use to start. So let's see, what am I? Looks like toggle hide dialog. Does that not get used over here? Yeah, toggle hide dialog. I think it happens. Yep, it happens after we save it. So after we save it, it should happen only in our try. I guess that would make sense. And it's toggle hide topic dialog. All right, and then let's find out why we have an error here. This should not be happening. Oh, that's why we shouldn't use it this way. This is probably one of those blunders that Copilot did. We shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, we should do this. There we go. That's a whole lot cleaner. Using the web part store. If you're using the web part store inside of a component, then use the hook, like use web part store. If you're using it like in an API file, like if I go to the FAQ API, I import it like this. And I'm wondering why it keeps on saying that it cannot find it. Let me get rid of this dash. I think it's just TypeScript because it's exactly the same, wasn't it? Yeah, it's just TypeScript because I re-recorded it and then it just doesn't recognize it. Technically the path didn't change. But if we look at our compiler, there's no errors. So we're good to go. All right. So now let's go to the default layout and add our dialog. So if you remember, we're gonna have a hide FAQ topic dialog, and we're gonna use a toggle method to toggle topic hide dialog, and we're gonna use a boolean because if you remember on the topic form, we're using toggle topic hide dialog. We'll do it this way. Toggle topic hide dialog and hide, and don't put topic, let's just call it hide topic dialog. Let's just do it that way. All right, so yeah, so hide dialogue, and we have high topic dialogue. Are we passing high topic dialogue? Because we passed it to, no, we didn't. Okay, all right, no worries. All right, so now we have in our default layout, we have our high topic dialogue, toggle high dialogue, and we're gonna basically create another dialogue right here. And we're gonna basically create our topic, and instead of our topic selector, we're gonna have our topic form. And our topic form is going to have what? Let's put it to the side. All right, so our topic form is going to need current topic item. And our current topic item, let's put it up here somewhere. Default layout, let's put it right here. Topic item, const current topic item, set current topic item. We're gonna use state, and it's gonna be FAQ topic or undefined. What happened? I really don't. This sizing of the page, I'm sorry folks, it's gonna be a bit messy, but let's say current topic, set current topic, and that's gonna use FAQ item, or it could be undefined, but by default it's gonna be set to undefined. All right, and now we can pass current topic item down here. And then what else do we need inside of our form? We need toggle hide. Let me put these over here. Let me copy this over here. I know it's gonna be messy for now, but we'll get there. All right, so the next thing is gonna be toggle topic hide dialog, and the next thing we're gonna need is topics. Did we have topics up here already? Thought we did, didn't we? Yeah, we have FAQ topics. All right, and what else do we need? Mutate FAQ topics. We haven't brought that in from topics. So under, where's the topics? Here we go. Mutate FAQ topics. We're gonna import that here. What else do we need? I think that was all we needed. All right, so we can get rid of all this. Topic form is happy, but we still have an issue where said current topic item is not visible. It's not gonna show up because in our topic selector, we need to be able to do a setter there. So let's look at our topic selector, and our topic selector is going to have to receive the setter. So let's copy this here, go to our topic selector, set current topic item, and then set current topic item. We're going to pass it into, what did I say? The selector. There we go, topic selector. Man, look at that. And see, this is I know that it's more typing, but you can literally code things and be confident that your code is gonna work, that your code is not gonna have bugs everywhere, okay? So that's what you get as a benefit to being able to do this this way, using TypeScript, using these scenarios, okay? So if we edit our page, now we have our add a topic. Oh, it's not working. Let's see what, oh, the add a topic doesn't have an action. All right, so our add a topic needs to have an action similar to how we had in default layout. So on click, we need to have these actions happen. Set, it's not gonna be the set, so we're gonna set current topic item. Yeah. And then toggle. We didn't bring toggle in here. We're gonna need toggle in the selector. So let's go look at toggle. It was under default layout. I just closed it. All right, so under default layout, we had our toggle. So we need to bring this in. Our topic selector. And now in here, we go, and then our error. This is what's awesome about TypeScript, that it shows you what you're missing. All right. So now we go to add topic. Look at that. Awesome. It's awesome. I love it. This is how we develop. This is how we can be confident that our web part is not going to have any issues, because we have done our due diligence. See, when we have a select topic, we have an FAQ item. This is just awesome. I love it. All right, so topic, instead of topic title, I'm not a big fan of that, so let's get rid of that text. It should just say topic, not topic title. Who calls that like that? All right, so add a topic. Man, this is so cool. Let's call it, what should we call it? Let's go look and see what these general, let's just call it general. Good idea. Add topic. Oh, we have an error somewhere. It's not actually adding it, but let's check. Let's go to contents. Give it a moment. Oh, here's our FAQ topics. Let's refresh it. Yeah, so we're definitely not writing anything, because I don't see anything in FAQ topics. So let's go see what the issue is. So we can go in here. When we click on that topic, nothing is happening. Let's go to our console, clear it out, add topic. Let's go to sources. Let's look at our topic API. Let's go to let's type in API. Topic API. So we should be hitting the adding of an FAQ topic. So let's put a breakpoint here in our create topic, and it's not. So something's wrong. And if I had to guess, it's inside of our form. There's an error in our form or something, but let's find out. Topic form. Let's put a breakpoint in the on submit, and let's put a breakpoint on error. On submit goes by data. On error, let's look and see what's errors. What does it say? Oh, data e tag is required. So I guess that's why I had a string in there. I guess that's why in our default values, if we go back, let's look at our validation. Inside of our FAQ form, we had this string. We can just do the same thing here for our topic form validation. Save that back, refresh. Now let's try it again. Add a topic, general, add topic. Why is it not showing us our topics? In our default layout, we have our topic selector. I'm not able to see it, but did it create a topic? Yeah, it's there. Topic should be there. Let's refresh. Am I missing something here? So in our topic selector, if topics and topics length is greater than 0, show them in a stack. However, I cannot see that. Why? That's interesting. Sorry. Add a topic. Nothing. Oh, it flashes. Did you see that? Oh, no, that's the loader. So we have a checkbox, label, topic, title. Maybe I should just do it this way. What does that do? Still not showing anything. Let's see what we find. Let's inspect our. Let's do some troubleshooting. Topic selector. Topics. So I do have a topic, and the title is general. So I should be able to see that because I can see the action button. Let's go to default layout. Let me see if I messed up something. Maybe I need to do it this way. If FAQ items and FAQ items length, then I want to show the topics, right? Let's see. What happened to my cards? Did I get rid of the cards? Let's see something. Let's go look at the history of this. Here we go. Was it this file? Default layout. Yeah, so I was showing them like this. The map of the items. And on my topic selector, here's my topic selector. So if this is what I'm doing wrong. This should be an and then here well, let's do it the way we have it here, because we do have to have something rendered saying we don't have any topics. Add a topic to the web part. So here we can have a React fragment. Move this up here, and inside here we're gonna put topics.map. And then let's get rid of this. And inside of here, let's add a message that says no topics found. What am I doing wrong? Yep, there we go. Oh, there we go. General. That's what I had done wrong. Is I hadn't actually put this into a React component, similar to how we did that. Anyway, so now we have the ability to say we have a topic here. We can obviously put a edit icon next to it, so we can edit the topic itself if we wanted to. And I'm actually thinking that maybe we should do something a little bit cooler than checkboxes. Just my thought. Maybe we can do something like pills. Have you ever seen that? Where you have like pills, UI, web, something like this. Something like this. You can have like pills. So if it's selected, it'll show something like, you know, like a little badge that it has been selected, or something like this. I think something like this would be cool, where you can have like a pill and it has like a little checkbox next to it. And then we add a topic. What was the other topic? Poster, is that what it says? Poster? Yeah, so let's just say SPFx as a topic. Add a topic, and you see how it immediately does that? That's what's really cool about this. And let's add React as one of our topics, and then we'll have questions around that. And then when the user checks these off, it's gonna store those. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna have to start adding these whenever a user clicks on the checkbox. We're gonna pass that data into our topics comment, comma, separated array, because that's what's gonna allow us to then show what topics are gonna be visible to the user. So I think that's gonna do it for tonight. I hope you had fun. I had a lot of fun. This is what I love to do. I am on YouTube and on Twitch. Again, this is stuff that we're just doing on the fly. This is not scripted. This is how I would develop. Sorry, excuse me. One of the things that I want to also do as part of this process is we really have to start considering planning, because it is a good thing to plan and ask our customers what is it they want to see. Right now, I'm just playing it by ear, but you can already see how complex things can get. And also, another thing that we're gonna have to talk about is, along with planning, is how to establish a good baseline, a good timeline for when the project should be completed. So I hope that you stick with me throughout this process. I promise that this is going to be a great thing to go forward with, and we're just going to build a lot of these different things, learn other things, because one of the cool things that we're doing is we're learning how to become really good developers, to where you can take these skills and move over to do development like as a full stack developer. Another thing that I would love to touch on is how to create a CI/CD pipeline, so that you can start an automated way of deploying these things into SharePoint. So you have the continuous deployment, continuous integration process. And I have a lot of great ideas on web parts that we can build. Some of them that won't even help us as developers. I'm not trying to go too much into detail, but I've noticed that there's some things that I miss from when we had SharePoint Designer. I think we could create web parts that as developers we can use. Like, wouldn't it be nice to just be able to delete side columns without having to go to side columns, click on the column, wait for that to render, or load on the page, click delete, wait for that to delete. When you can just have it just listed, check them all off, the ones you want, click delete, and it just iterates through them and deletes them. Make our life easier as developers, right? so we can create a web part like that. Things like that I think would be very beneficial to us. But anyway, thanks for coding with me tonight. I hope that you found this to your benefit. Be on the lookout for my videos. I take these videos, and a short disclaimer on this: everything that I do is live and unscripted, and so my videos are gonna derive from these recordings that I go on and do live. If you want to join me and you have a question, or if you want to stop me, put it on the chat. We do have a chat room where you can kind of tell me if you have a question, and I will definitely that I will definitely answer. So just keep that in mind. Going forward, please do that. If you see this video as a recording, put it in the comments. I might look at it and we can address it on the next time that we meet. With that being said, thanks again for joining me, and I hope everyone has a good rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time you're in. Take care. Goodbye.